Good evening. I hope everybody is keeping well. Please be kind to each other. There's too much controversy going on in the world, too much division, too much hate. Please come together in peace and love. We're going to be speaking about John Wayne Gacy, known as the Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy was born on March the 17th, 1942. And obviously, he was an American serial killer and ex-offender and raped and tortured and murdered at least 33 young men and boys between 1972 and 1978 in Norwood Park Township, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. He became known as the Killer Clown due to his public performances as a clown prior to the discovery of his crimes. Obviously, I said he was born on March 17th, 1942, and he died the 10th of May, 1994, age 52, at Stateville Correctional Center, Illinois, US. He was obviously executed by lethal injection. His spouses were Marlon Myers. He was married in 1964, divorced in 1969. Then he was married to Carol Hoff, married in 1972, divorced in 1976, and had 2 children. I didn't actually think he had children for people's videos that I've watched. For some reason, I didn't. Obviously, he's been done with 33 counts of indecent liberties with child deviant sexual assault, sodomy, and things like that. And obviously, it was sentenced to death. Obviously, he had 33 victims with a span of 1972 to 1978. He was apprehended on the 21st of December 1978 and imprisoned at Menard Correctional Centre. Gacy committed all of his own murders inside his ranch-style house. Typically, he would lure a victim to his home and dupe them into donning handcuffs on the pretext of demonstrating a magic trick. So he would lure them in, thinking that they were doing tricks, and obviously, well, which is absolutely vile. He would then rape and torture his captives before killing his victim with either asphyxiation, strangulation with a garrote out. I don't know what that is. 26 victims were buried in the crawl space of his home, and 3 were buried elsewhere on his property. Obviously, he was doing that to keep them close because he was absolutely obsessed. And he was married, had children, and he was doing this in the family home. 4 were discarded in the Des Plaines River. Gacy previously had been convicted in 1968 of the sodomy of a teenage boy in Waterloo, Iowa, and was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. It was served 18 months. He murdered his first victim in 1972. Had murdered twice more by the end of 1975 and murdered at least 30 victims after his divorce from his second wife in 1976. The investigation into the disappearance of Des Plaines teenager Robert Price led to Gacy's arrest in December the 21st, 1978. Gacy's conviction for 33 murders and by one individual then covered the most homicide in United States legal history. Gacy was sentenced to death in March 13th, 1980. He was executed by lethal injection at Stateville Correctional Centre in the 10th, the 10th of May in 1994. John Wayne Gacy was born in Edgewater Hospital in Chicago, Illinois on March 17th, 1972. The second of three children and only son of John Stanley Gacy and Marion Elaine Robson. His father was an auto repair machinist and World War I veteran, and his mother was a homemaker. Gacy was of Polish and Danish ancestry, and his family was Catholic. That wouldn't have went down well. God knows what he said to his priest in private. Gacy was close to his mother and two sisters, but had a difficult relationship with his alcoholic father, who was verbally and physically abusive to his family. The elder Gacy frequently belittled his son, calling him dumb and stupid and comparing him unfavourably with his sisters. One of Gacy's earliest childhood memories was of his father beating him at age 4 for accidentally disarranging car engine components. Very lovely father. But it doesn't mean that you go on do what he did either. His mother tried to shield her son from his father's abuse, which resulted in accusations that he was a sissy and a mama's boy who would probably grow up queer. And he was batting for the other side, and even though he was married, because obviously when you're a Catholic, it wasn't seen as right not to be who you want to be, but don't shove it in people's faces either, or trying to control people with saying, "Oh, I'm this and that." So if you're gay, whatever, be who you want to be. Just don't try to push it onto your agenda onto everybody else. Gacy's father whipped him after he and another boy were caught sexually fondling a young girl. The same year, a family friend began to occasionally molest Gacy. Gacy never told his father, afraid that his father would blame him. Despite their challenging relationship, Gacy loved his father, but felt he was never good enough in his father's eyes. And you do get that in some families, especially when it's not. The thing is about religious families, especially Catholics, Christians, Jews, Islam, whatever faith you're in, they're very, very hard on the kids. And it's pushed. Allow your kids to be who they are. If they don't want to support that religion, allow them to be who they are. So, and don't crucify them for being different and things like that. I think that's totally wrong. So Gacy was an overweight and an athlete child because of a heart condition. He was told to avoid sports. In the 4th grade, Gacy began to experience blackouts. He was hospitalised on occasion because of these episodes, and also in 1957 for a burst appendix. Gacy later estimated that between the ages of 14 and 18, he spent almost a year in hospital. He attributed the decline of his grades to missing school. Gacy's medical condition was never conclusively diagnosed. As far as suspected, he was malingering. Probably thought he was at it, but there was medical reasons, but they just couldn't figure out what was wrong, but knew there was something. On one occasion, he openly accused his son of faking as he lay in a hospital bed. How lovely. Imagine your parent coming in and seeing that, or you're faking it. I mean, today, as I say, you do get people like this and collating, but again, it doesn't mean that you go do what you do, like being nasty and all that, and doing this sort of thing. His career origins: in 1960, at age 18, Gacy became involved in politics, working as an assistant precinct captain for a local Democrat Party candidate. This led to more criticism from his father, who called him a patsy. The same year, Gacy's father bought him a car. He kept the vehicle's title in his own name until Gacy had paid for it, which took several years. His father would confiscate the keys if Gacy did not do as he said. In April 1962, Gacy purchased an extra set of keys. In response, his father removed the distributor cap, keeping the component for 3 days. Hours after his father replaced the cap, Gacy left home and drove to Las Vegas, Nevada, with $136. I mean, I don't know how much that is in American money. And so, doesn't sound a lot, to his name, in the hope of residing with a cousin. I mean, I suppose if you're in a family like that sort of family, you'd want to just escape and get away. But you can't blame what happened with his family for what he did. Yeah, it mucks up your head and all the rest of it. I mean, there's people have been abused and don't go and abuse other people, so that's no excuse for what this guy did. Gacy worked in the Las Vegas ambulance service before being transferred to Palm Mortuary. He worked as a mortuary attendant for 3 months, observing morticians embalming bodies and occasionally serving as a pallbearer. I mean, obviously my uncles, my mum's brothers, two of them were obviously, they worked in the cemetery, and obviously I got offered a job as for thinking, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But see, anything, I wish I blinking did, because it's a good paying job, and you're helping families make their loved ones look respectable and things like that, so they can come and see them. But obviously, I was very young, and I was 14, and I'm like, see that way, a typical teenager, you're like, I'm not doing that. He slept in a cot behind the embalming room and later confessed that one evening, while alone, oh my God, please, I'm dreading to read the rest of this. He clambered into the coffin of a teenage male, embracing and caressing, oh, it's disgusting, the body before experienced a sense of shock. The experience prompted Gacy to return home. Shortly thereafter, Gacy enrolled at Northwestern Business College. Despite having failed to complete high school, he graduated in 1963 and took a management trainee position with the Nunbush Shoe Company. In 1964, the company transferred him to Springfield, Illinois, to work as a salesman and eventually promoted him to department manager. In March of that year, he became engaged to Marilyn Myers, a co-worker. That was obviously his first wife. I don't know if he had children with her or the second one. During their courtship, Gacy joined the local chapter of the Jaycees I don't know if anybody's American, they could let me know what that is. The same year he had his second homosexual experience. How can you say having your first one was with a dead body? It makes me sick to my stomach, even if he did things like that to a person that was lying in a coffin. It's vile. According to Gacy, a colleague in the JC's hailed him with drinks and invited him to spend the evening on his sofa. The colleague then performed oral sex on him while he was drunk. By 1965, Gacy had risen to the position of vice president of the Springfield JCs and was named the third most outstanding JC in Illinois. I mean, this guy was mental. I just don't know. I mean, it's like, to do what he did, I get it, his dad was very abusive and things like that. His mum obviously tried to protect him. And obviously, being just because he was an only son doesn't mean his dad shouldn't have done what he did either. But it didn't mean that he shouldn't have went on to do what he did. And he can't blame his father or his mother for things like that. No more is money. KFC manager. Gacy and Myers married in September 1964. Marlon's father successfully pursued 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants in Waterloo, Iowa. The couple moved there so Gacy could manage the restaurants with the understanding they would move into Marlon's parents' former home. The offer was lucrative. Gacy would receive £15,000 per year, the equivalent of about 152,600 as of 2025, plus a share of the restaurant's profits. I mean, that's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? Gacy opened a club in his basement where the employees could drink alcohol and play pool. Although Gacy employed teenagers of both sexes, he socialised only with the males. Gacy gave many of them alcohol before he made sexual advances. If they rebuffed him, he would claim his advances were jokes or tests of morals. I mean, as I say, I've remembered what I can't even, for the life of me, remember who. I've watched a good few YouTubers do videos on John Wayne Gacy. I just can't remember who, or I would say I would link them, their channels. Gacy's wife gave birth to a son in February 1966 and a daughter in March 1967. Gacy later described his period of his life as perfect. He had finally earned his father's approval. When Gacy's parents visited in July 1966, his father privately apologised for the abuse he had inflicted before happily saying, "Son, I was wrong about you," as he shook his hand. It took that long for his dad to realise that, anyway, but obviously his dad didn't realise his son was what he was. I don't think he would be shaking his hand. Obviously it shows you here, it's a picture of his first wife at a JC's Christmas party. I would have tried to show you, but it's one is in black and white, and it's that trying to get a picture from here to there is very hard. In Waterloo, Gacy joined the local JC's chapter regular, offering extended hours to the organisation in addition to the 12 and 14-hour days. He worked managing the restaurants. At meetings, Gacy provided fried chicken and insisted on being called Colonel. He and other Waterloo JCs were also deeply involved in drug abuse, pornography, prostitution, and wife swapping. Although Gacy was considered ambitious and a braggart, the Gacy's JC's held him in high regard for his fundraising work. In 1967, he was named Outstanding Vice President of the Waterloo JCs and served on the board of directors. So he's clearly went up. He's obviously, he must have been good at his job, but he wasn't a good person. He assaulted Donald Voorhees. I'm sorry if I'm butchering people's names or not saying words properly. I do try. In August 1967, Gacy sexually assaulted 15-year-old Donald Voorhees Jr., the son of Donald Edwin Voorhees, a local politician and fellow JC. Gacy lured Voorhees to his house with the promise of showing him heterosexual stag films regularly played at JC events. Imagine actually sitting and doing things. Gacy piled Voorhees with alcohol, allowed him to watch a stag movie, then persuaded him to engage in mutual oral sex, adding, "You have to have sex with a man before you start having sex with a woman." Who did he sound like? His father. Oh, sorry, father. It sounded exactly like his father, except his father didn't do that. Also, we didn't want to know. Over the following months, Gacy abused several other youths, including one whom he encouraged to have sex with his own wife before blackmailing him into performing oral sex on him. Gacy also tricked several teenagers into believing he was commissioned to conduct homosexual experiments for scientific research and paid them up to $50 each. It was, what a disgusting person. It was absolutely vile. In March 1968, Voorhees told his father that Gacy had sexually assaulted him. Voorhees Sr. immediately informed the police, who arrested Gacy and charged him with performing oral sodomy on Voorhees and the attempted assault of 16-year-old Edward Lynch. Gacy vehemently denied the charges and demanded to take a polygraph test. The results of these tests were indicative of deception. Gacy publicly denied any wrongdoing and insisted the charges were politically motivated. Voorhees Sr. had opposed Gacy's nomination for appointment as president of Iowa JCs. Several fellow JCs found Gacy's story credible and rallied to his support. However, on May the 10th, 1968, Gacy was indicted on the sodomy charge. The most striking aspect of the test results and the patient's total denial of responsibility for everything that happened to him. He can produce an alibi for everything. He presents himself as a victim of circumstances and blames other people who are out to get him. The patient attempts to assure a sympathetic response by dissecting himself as being at the mercy of hostile environment. A section of a report detailing Gacy's 1968 psychiatric evaluation. Obviously, when you're going to court, a lot of judges or lawyers ask for doctor's reports and things like that. On August the 30th, Gacy promised one of his employees, 18-year-old Russell Schroeder, $300 if he physically assaulted Voorhees in an effort to discourage the boy from testifying in court. That's not going to go. I wouldn't have went in for him. Schroeder lured Voorhees to an isolated park, sprayed mace in his eyes, then beat him. Voorhees escaped and reported Schroeder's actions to police. Also, he was arrested the next day, initially denying involvement. He soon confessed to assaulting, obviously, Voorhees, indicating he had done so at Gacy's request, police arrested Gacy and charged him with hiring school reader to assault and intimidate Voorhees. On September the 12th, Gacy was ordered to undergo a psychic evaluation at the psychiatric hospital of University of Iowa. 2 doctors concluded he had an antisocial personality disorder, the clinical term for psychopathy and or sociopathy and psychopathy was unlikely to benefit from treatment, and that his behaviour pattern was likely to bring him to repeated conflict with society. The doctors concluded Gacy was mentally competent to stand obviously trial. Can you give me a wee second to get a drink of juice, guys? What's what he's talking about his conviction and imprisonment as well. I mean, it's clear it was what he did was absolutely. I feel sorry for every single victim. I feel sorry for their families. I feel sorry for his ex-wives and his children, who are obviously probably had to change their names due to the fact they had his second name. So it's sad, very sad when people do things like that. Because when you do things and you do have a family, clearly they've not thought about the victim's family or even their own. So, and it's it's heartbreaking. On November the 7th, 1960, Gacy pleaded guilty to 1 count of sodomy in relation to Voorhees, but not guilty to the charges related to other youths. He claimed that Voorhees had offered himself to him and he acted out of curiosity. His story was not believed. Gacy was convicted of sodomy on obviously December the 3rd and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment to be served at, I'm going to try and pronounce this, Anamosa State Penitentiary. That same day, Gacy's wife petitioned for divorce, requesting she be rewarded the couple's home, property, sole custody of their 2 children, and alimony. The court ruled in her favour and the divorce was finalised on September the 18th, 1969. Gacy never saw his first wife or his children again. No wonder. I would be the same as a wife. Divorce, change is ignorant. So it means obviously children would have had her maiden name, because obviously she wouldn't have wanted the children having had a name or anything coming back to them. Even though it wasn't their fault, people still go after, when somebody does something wrong, they go after that person's family when it's nothing to do with them, especially in circumstances like this, unless they know about it. During his incarnation, Gacy rapidly acquired a reputation as a model prisoner. Within months of his arrival, he had risen to the position of head cook. He also joined the inmate JC chapter and increased its membership from 50 to 650 men in less than 18 months. Gacy secured an increase in the inmates' daily pay in the prison mess hall and supervised several projects to improve conditions for inmates, including the installation of a miniature golf course. What? He was presented with a Distinguished Service Award for his efforts within the inmate JC chapter in February 1970. In June 1969, Gacy was denied parole to prepare for a second scheduled parole hearing in May 1970. He completed 16 high school courses, obtaining his diploma in November 1969. On Christmas Day, 1916, Gacy's father died from cirrhosis. When informed of his father's death, Gacy collapsed to the floor sobbing. His request for supervised compassionate leave to attend the funeral was denied. Gacy was granted parole within 12 months probation in June 1897, having served 18 months of his 10-year sentence. What did he do to get out of that? Condition of his probation included a nightly curfew and that Gacy relocate to Chicago to live with his mother. On his release, Gacy told friend and fellow JC Clarence Lane, who picked him up from the prison and had remained steadfast in his belief of Gacy's innocence, that he would never go back to jail and that he intended to establish himself in Waterloo. However, within 24 hours, Gacy had relocated to Chicago. He arrived there by bus on June the 19th and shortly thereafter attained a job as a short order cook. On February the 12th, 1971, Gacy was charged with sexually assaulting a teenage boy who claimed that he had lured him into his car at Chicago's Greyhound bus terminal and driven him to his home, where he had attempted to force the boy into sex. The court dismissed this complaint when the boy failed to appear. He was obviously too scared to say anything, which is a shame, because I would have kept him off the street and it would have stopped, maybe he wouldn't have done what he'd done and murdered people. On June the 22nd, Gacy was arrested and charged with aggravated sexual battery and reckless conduct in response to a complaint filed by a youth who claimed that Gacy had flashed a sheriff's bath, lured him into his car and forced him to perform oral sex. These charges were dropped after complainant attempted to blackmail Gacy. The Iowa Border Patrol did not learn of these incidents. Gacy's patrol ended on the 18th of October 1971. See, this is a problem when things like this are happening, and it still happens today. They don't actually look and find out if they're doing anything else. If they move, when they move, they don't. Do you know what I mean? It's like they don't go and find them, whatever. And a month later, the records of Gacy's criminal convictions in Iowa were sealed. 8213 West Somerville Avenue. With financial assistance from his mother, Gacy bought a ranch-style house at 8213 West Somerville Avenue in unincorporated Norwood Park Township, Illinois, part of the metropolitan Chicago. He lived there until his arrest in December 1978, and according to Gacy, committed all murders there. Gacy was active in his local community and helpful towards his neighbours. He willingly loaned construction tools and ploughed snow from neighbourhood walks free of charge. From 1974 to 1978, he hosted themed annual summer parties. These events were attended up to 400 people, including politicians and business associates. His second marriage and divorce. In 1971, shortly after Gacy and his mother moved into the house, he became engaged to Carol Hoff, whom he briefly dated in high school. Hoff and her two young daughters from a previous marriage moved into the house soon after. They were married on the 1st of July 1972. Gacy's mother moved out of the house shortly before the wedding. In 1975, Gacy had told his wife that he was bisexual. After the couple had sex on Mother's Day that year, he informed her this would be the last time they would do so. He began spending most evenings away from home, only to return in the early morning with the excuse she had been working late or conducting business meetings. See, if that happened, I'd be like, you know what? I'd be like, divorce. Go out to do that, divorce. If you can't stay committed, then out of here. Carol observes Gacy's bringing teenage boys into his garage in the early hours, and also found gay pornography and men's wallets and identification inside the house. When she confronted Gacy about these items, he informed her angrily it was none of her business. She should have informed the police. In October 1975, after a heated argument, Carol asked Gacy for divorce, agreed, although by mutual consent, she continued to live at his house until February 1976. On the 2nd of March, the Gacy's divorce decreed on the false grounds of Gacy's infidelity with women was finalised. PDM contractors, I think I remember him, and where my legs are. So, in 1971, Gacy established a part-time construction business, BTM Contractors, for painting, decorating and maintenance. With the approval of his probation officer, Gacy worked evenings on his construction contracts, while working as a cook during the day. Initially, he undertook minor repair work, but later expanded to include projects such as interior design, remodeling and landscaping. In mid-1973, Gacy quit his job as a cook so he would commit fully to his construction business. I'm going to leave it here because it's getting a bit late and I'm starting to get a wee bit tired as well. So I'll continue on with this, okay? So I'll say, send in love and light and good night.